This is the final 8 of the Champions League. And of course, this is the bracket that I'm about to fill out. I'm going to let you know who makes it through, each tie remaining in the Champions League, and of course, the winner. The final that I got to was not what I expected, but I'm going to go with my gut. That's the whole point of these kind of things. It's that little bit of fun. And on top of that, I'm going to let you know who the player of the tournament is and who the top scorer will be as well. And we'll talk about who will win and how they will win every single tie. Of course, these are the final 8, the quarterfinals. Atletico Madrid against Dortmund, PSG against Barcelona, and that is one side of the draw. So the winner of that will go into the semi-final. And then in what is an absolutely loaded side of the draw, Arsenal against Bayern Munich. The storylines, we'll get into that in a second. And Real Madrid against Manchester City. I love about Manchester City. And in the words of my sister-in-law's dog, woof. Because this is so exciting. And on this channel, we will be doing tactical reviews after a lot of these big games. Don't worry about it. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Let's get into it. The first game that we've got to talk about, Atletico Madrid versus Dortmund. Now, I think in terms of Atletico Madrid, what I was really impressed with and what I think they've got that Atletico Madrid teams of the past maybe haven't had the same amount is match winners. In Griezmann, you've got a player who's in incredible form. He's joint top scorer, I think, at the moment with 6 goals. And actually there's 4 players on 6, I think, at the moment, or knocking around that number. We'll go through those guys at the moment. Actually, it's Griezmann, Haaland, Mbappe, Alvarez, Kane, and Bellingham. Alvarez and Bellingham, I think, have got 4 each. The rest of the guys for the top scorer spot. And Griezmann will be in the running for it, because if you're Atletico Madrid, this is the dream draw, I think, for you. In terms of the weakest sides remaining, I think it's actually all 4 of those. Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, PSG, and Barcelona. Atletico Madrid, I think what I like is that they have those match winners, as I said. Depay being able to come on and affect the game the way he did. Even someone like Riquelme came on and was really impressive for them. But also they can go with the ebb and the flow of the game. And I think they're a really good cup team. Defensively, very good. They play 3 at the back as well. And against this Dortmund side, who can't seem to string a good solid 90 minutes together. If you look at the game against PSV, look at the games earlier in the tournament, I was impressed. But I feel like there's a ceiling to this Dortmund side, and there's some big decisions to be made. Royce, Julian Brandt, Marlon, and Sancho. Who are you going to start out of those guys? Füllkrug up top doesn't feel like a strong enough striker for me. So I've got Atletico Madrid going through in this first one. I think the back 3 of Atletico Madrid as well will be able to deal with the counter-attacking of Dortmund. And I just don't think Dortmund have enough quality. I think the midfield as well of Atletico Madrid will give them a real chance. And I've got to say, I think Atletico Madrid have got a real chance of going quite far in this competition, especially with the draw that they've got. And that bit of stardust that they've got in Griezmann, the size that they've got at the back, just the overall feeling of a Diego Simeone team, they will stay in the tie. And I think they'll make it through this one. PSG against Barcelona. Right, first outrageous narrative. La Remontada. Remember that? We did it on The Ripple Effect. That's my podcast. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. And it was, of course, the greatest turnaround in probably footballing history, or certainly at the highest level. The turnaround was absolutely ridiculous. And who was the manager that day? Yeah, that's right. Enrique. He's now manager of PSG. I know. This game, you've got 2 teams that I don't think totally know who they are. PSG playing in a slightly odd diamond these days, I guess. I've got a lot of talent. Are they still a bit too green? Are they a bit over-reliant on Mbappe to take them, over the line? Importantly as well, you've got to think about the second tie being in Barcelona, just like La Remontada. Barcelona don't totally know who they are, but I think obviously as a possession-based team, they should be able to hold on to the ball. You've got people like Christensen playing in midfield, or Romeo, which you don't really like. Feels like Gundogan's on his own a little bit sometimes. And then again, you've got a lot of young players that they're from La Masia who are outrageously exciting. But at this stage, despite the home leg being at PSG's second leg, I think PSG will be okay. I think it will be about Mbappe, and I think he'll make them pay. I think he'll be able to showcase the quality there. Barcola, not totally sure about the role that he's playing. Obviously got the excitement of Hakimi down the line. Yeah, just all's not well with Barcelona, so I'm going to go PSG for that one. So that's our first semi-final. Arsenal Bayern Munich. Wow. First of all, you got the sort of fear factor. Now, Arsenal fans, talk to me about the fear factor when it comes to Bayern Munich, because someone put that to me and I was like, no, I'm not having it, because I don't think this group of players are bothered about Bayern Munich. I think the fan base is, because they've got a terrible record against Bayern Munich. But that's when, that's in the past. I don't think that's a thing. One thing I'm struggling with is that at the start of the season I said I think Arsenal could win the Champions League. Now we get to the final 8. Do I still feel like that? This is honestly the toss of a coin for me between these two teams, because if you've got Kane, you can take that chance when it comes, whenever he gets that chance. You've got Musiala, Muller, you've got Sane, of course, and they play that little bit more central as well. So the centre of the pitch is going to get very congested, I think. It'd be a big game could be one where does he put in Thomas Partey along with Declan Rice? And I think the big one here for me, in terms of the players that matter, Martinelli, I think, is going to be crucial. You'll have Kimmich on that right-hand side, will get on the ball a lot, have a lot of touches. But I think in offensive transition, I've got a feeling Martinelli could be very, very dangerous, especially with Havertz will inevitably play, I think, in this one. And I think that would be a smart move, because I think you need someone to occupy those two defenders. Who those two defenders will be another interesting talking point. You've got Kim Min-jae, Dyer, De Ligt, of course, as well. All kind. Upper Meccano's been suspended recently. All those players, fighting for those positions. Interesting to see who he goes with. Some things I've read, they're not totally sure about Kim, which I don't really get, but it could be one where Dyer plays, and you've got Dyer and Kane in this. The Tottenham narrative within this is absolutely huge. And they've got so much quality. Musiala as well in there. It's a good midfield. Pavlovic is someone I'm really, really excited about as a player for Bayern Munich in midfield, and kind of getting him in the team is why Kimmich maybe is out on that right-hand side. That said, gut-wise, I've just got a feeling, I think it's so tight. I've got a feeling Arsenal will do a job. I think Arteta will do a job on Tuchel. I think they'll be able to defensively deal. I've been impressed with Arsenal in the big games this year in terms of frustrating them, especially out of possession. And I think that could be a big part to be played in this one. And I think on the break, Martinelli could do bits for them. I think a lot of people will disagree with this. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with a lot of these shouts. But this is how I feel. So let me know in the comments down below why you disagree with me without totally hammering me out. Would be lovely. So I'm going to go with Arsenal. It's not a Premier League bias thing. It's and Bayern Munich is stupidly good at home, and you can talk your way into either way. I'm sticking with Arteta on this one. I think Arteta can do a job, and I think this Arsenal team is in a good place at this stage to go and do well there. First leg will be huge, of course, because I think they need something to go to Bayern Munich, who just never lose at home. I'm going to move on before I change my mind, but it's going to be very, very tight there. Do you know the thing that's pulling at me more than anything? It's the fact that Harry Kane, he just won't get what he wants. I mean, I like Harry Kane, and I would love, it would be pure Barclays in the Champions League if Harry Kane scores the goals, and he probably will score a goal to take them through. I just don't think it ever works like that for Harry Kane. He never seems to get what he wants, which is a shame, especially with the Euros coming up. And I think that's pulling at me as well. But the thing, more than anything, I think Arteta in big games has been very, very impressive. I mean, it's actually going and breaking down a team when there's no space. That's where I think that Arsenal would more likely fall down. Real Madrid against Man City. The last team to beat Man City in the Champions League, of course, semi-final 2 seasons ago was Real Madrid. I was at the second leg of the game, the semi-final last year, and Man City absolutely had their way with them. This one feels different, I've got to be honest. The reason it feels a bit different to me is that the way that Man City were able to pop around them with this sort of laser focus was so impressive. And this Real Madrid team had a lot of different parts. You had Benzema in that team. You had Toni Kroos and Modric in that team. I think in this one, you won't have that. I think you're going to have Tchouaméni, you're going to have Camavinga, you're going to have Valverde. I know Valverde played in that last one. You're going to have Bellingham in there as well. There's a lot of legs in there, and then it's going to be one of either Kroos or Modric, most likely to start, and then obviously they'll change it as the game goes on. Again, this is all funny feelings, right? This is all funny feelings. I think Real Madrid do them. I think you've got to go with gut on this. And so much is going to change between now and then. I think the league is getting sewn up as we speak, as the games go past. And I think having Bellingham in there, I think in offensive transition, again, I think they could really, really hurt them. Vinicius Jr., of course, could be devastating there. Massive, massive matchup, I think, is on both sides. And then, of course, in the midfield battle as well. I don't think they'll have their way with them like they have done previously. Second leg being at Manchester City is very, very useful for them. So again, you could toss a coin here. I think Vinicius Jr. against Walker, maybe it's at the forefront of my mind, but with Luis Diaz recently, making life very difficult for Walker. Is that something that Vinicius Jr. could do to Walker? At some stage, Walker has to slow down a little bit, but generally Walker has the better of these players, so that would be interesting, but Vinicius Jr. is only getting better. Bellingham, can you track him? And also Bellingham being able to come back and help a bit defensively, I think will help Real Madrid's chances as well in this one. I think on the right-hand side, as I said, Walker against Vinicius Jr. On the left-hand side, Carvajal against who? Is it Doku? Is it Foden? Do you move him over to the left-hand side? Put Bernardo Silva on the right-hand side, who was absolutely devastating in that second leg a year ago, quite possibly. And you bring Alvarez back into the middle. I think that would be the way to go if it was me for Man City. Grealish, will he be back by then? Will he have a part to play as well? Very, very interesting. I'm going to be very rogue here, and I'm going to go for Real Madrid. I just think they've got a lot of the kryptonite that could really hurt Man City. I really do. Which is outrageous. Normally I have a rule that you just don't go against Man City because it's stupid. But that's what I'm going with. I'm going with Real Madrid. So those are your semi-finals. Atletico Madrid, PSG, Arsenal, and Real Madrid. So we've got our semi-finals. Who makes it to the final? And are there some new exciting narratives to spin? And I promise you, this is how I had it, and then it slapped me in the face. The storyline that revealed itself. Atletico Madrid versus PSG. Atletico Madrid, I think, are going to be very sound, very strong. I think, but as PSG make their way through and past Barcelona, getting past the ghosts of La Remontada, they will start to grow more and more belief. In terms of sort of overall X factor, I think it's very, very tight between these two. And do you go with the bad guys, the villains in this, in terms of Atletico Madrid, who, as I said, I think have got more firepower than ever? Or do you go with the PSG side that will be growing in confidence by making it through to this semi-final stage with quite possibly the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe? I just see a moment with Atletico Madrid where PSG, on the break a little bit, Mbappe gets the ball and devastates that back line of Atletico Madrid. And having the second leg at PSG, I think, is crucial as well. I think this one goes to penalties. I see this one going to penalties. I'll tell you who I pick in a second. Arsenal against Real Madrid. Wow. Now, this idea that Bayern Munich is like, a bit too much and they're a bit scared. Arsenal, I just don't buy that at all. I don't buy it at all. Arsenal against Real Madrid, however, could just be that for still a very young squad in Arsenal. Could be somewhere where they might blink a little bit. Now, as I said, I feel like they could go all the way. And I think they could. And I think this could be really, really close. But again, I think the second leg at the Bernabeu could pay dividends here. And I think Bellingham against Rice. Bellingham against Rice, guys. This is going to be so good. But it could go deep. It could go to extra time. I think they might just have a little bit more quality. And it could be one where it could be one for Cruz or for Modric to step into this one and just have that little bit too much. Or it could be one for, is it time for Odegaard to step up as well? Honestly, my brain is melting. And that is a tie I would love to see. Love to see. I go with Real Madrid though. I think the star power, I think they would have just a little bit too much kind of, I don't want to even say this because it's bollocks, but like that sort of football heritage element of it, of being Real Madrid. I struggle to see Arsenal in that tie. I think if Arsenal could have avoided Real Madrid, I think I'd take them all the way. But that half of the draw is just minging, isn't it? It's absolutely minging. And I put Real Madrid through into the final. And I think they will play well, obviously there's two storylines here. So you've got Atletico Madrid, Madrid versus Madrid after what happened previously, which would just be wild. Ancelotti against Diego Simeone, two very different managers. Or you have Mbappe against Real Madrid. And I think it's PSG. I think it's Mbappe against Real Madrid in the Champions League final. And I think oh my word. That's what football's about, is about these kind of stories. And it would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because you'd have the sort of the upstarts of PSG a little bit, right? Up against Real Madrid. And by this point, then you start talking differently about anything, right? If PSG can get themselves to the final. You know, we saw what Inter Milan did against Man City. They made them look very ordinary in that final, you know, due to maybe the nerves of being the favourites. And also, for this young squad, a lot of players will be playing in their first Champions League final. They will be the underdogs going into a game like this. I think Real Madrid would definitely be the favourites, and it would just be all on Mbappe's shoulders, which he would massively enjoy. But again, I think there is a very clear side to the draw that's much harder than the other. PSG against Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Man City. I think I'd probably go for the other team overall. And it's about the Mbappe factor. Can he do it on his own as he leaves to go to that club? It just feels like it's a little bit written for me. But what I will reiterate is that I didn't do that. I literally went game by game. And when we get to Real Madrid against PSG, I think Real Madrid's midfield overruns that PSG midfield. And I think they get the job done. And I think it will be Real Madrid once again. So that is my bracket. I want to know yours. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Top scorer and player of the tournament. Let's go back to it. For me, I think it will be Mbappe who becomes the top scorer. As it progresses, I think these games are going to be tight in terms of this lower half of the draw. I think there's more opportunities to score those goals for Mbappe, and I think if they do well, he's going to do well. So with that in mind, Mbappe is the top scorer. But I think in terms of the player of the tournament, I think it goes to Vinicius Jr. or Bellingham. And you know me, guys, I bloody love my boy Bellingham. So I think those moments with Bellingham will be, and the way he has been all season, I think that will continue. I know he's fallen off a little bit, but I think he will love these big games. He will snarl in these big games, and he will be ready to go and win the Euros. That is not a factor in this. I think he's him. I do. I think Vinicius Jr. will obviously have a big part to play in helping the team win and score goals, and other players will do different jobs. But in terms of being the guy, I think this could be Bellingham's tournament. And with Real Madrid winning it, I think he will be the player of the tournament. And then Mbappe, of course, will have to go to Real Madrid, the Champions League winners, after losing in that final. But how will Real Madrid set up with Mbappe next season? If you want to find out, then click right